In this video, we are going to look at the stock market and the current state of the stock market and why it could potentially bottom within the next couple of weeks or the next couple of months and then start a massive rally. Now, this is a cryptocurrency channel, but as you may know, Bitcoin has been very closely following the overall stock market. So if the stock markets are going to go for a major rally later on in this year and potentially in 2023, then the crypto markets are very likely going to follow, which is obviously good for all of us holding Bitcoin and altcoins. If you are new to this channel, welcome. My name is Dirk. Subscribe to the channel down below. Click that notification bell if you haven't done so already. Get on my email list. That's the first link in the description down below. You can also follow on Instagram, Twitter, and join our free public Telegram. The links are in the description down below. Alright, so since we are in the year 2022, it means in the United States, it is the year of midterm elections, which will be held on Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. Now, a lot of the financial movements happen, of course, in the United States. Yes, of course, in Europe and in Asia too. But the United States is a major player within the global financial market. So what happens within the United States is also very, very important. So what is interesting to note is that these midterm election years obviously happen every 4 years, meaning that we have data for the stock markets going back for many, many decades, which means that we can take an average of the performance of stock markets over many decades and get a global picture of how this year performs on average. And you can see here, this is exactly what that is. It is the S&P 500 index average year-to-date return of 1931 to present. And it shows you here in the gray all the other years besides midterm election years versus the blue, which is the midterm election year performance. And as you can see, the performance is choppy to negative for most of the year, leading into about the middle of September, and then towards the end of the year, when those elections take place, remember November 8th this year, we start this major rally and end of the year with a big rally, and then potentially going forward into 2023, that we also have a continuation of the rally, which of course makes sense because during these election periods, you don't want the market going down and sentiment going down. You want that optimism, you want everyone getting excited and making returns and making money, and everything is good. It's obviously just beneficial for the whole process. So this is what we see over the average. You can see from 1931. So we are currently in June, which you can see is choppy to negative. And then September is historically the worst month for stock markets. And again, this election year, it doesn't seem to be any different. It's also, I think, the worst for Bitcoin performance in the month of September. So you can see we could have here a couple of months of choppiness left in the stock markets, maybe with some sort of final capitulation or quick sell-off in September. And then if this follows the average, again, it's the average, certain years could overperform or underperform. Of course, there's no guarantees, but we could be looking at some sort of final sell-off or quick sell-off in September, and then in Q4, October to December this year, starting a big rally in the stock market, which would likely also then be in the crypto markets. As if you've been following the videos I've been making on the channel, you can see a lot of metrics, a lot of indicators are starting to point towards us being near or at an historic bottom or historic buying opportunities for Bitcoin, meaning that we could get a bottom anytime between, say, now and the next few weeks or the next few months, start sideways accumulation, and then start a new rally, potentially lining up with what I've just shared here in Q4 of this year and then going forward into 2023. Now, this is just one chart. There are a couple other things that I can share with you here in this video to show this even more. So you can see this is the data for what is called insider block purchases. A block is 100,000 shares or $1 million. 10 of the last 11 times this happened since 1992 has been good. So you can see if the insiders are buying, so the people in the know, the CEOs, the executives who have more information for whatever reason, who tend to make these positions. When this insider big block buying happens, you can see over here marked on the chart every time it was at or near bottoms before a major rally. You can see over here how many times that happened. Even here, that was the worst signal. We had a little pump there and then obviously it crashed in the 2008 crash. But other than that, you can see 10 out of the 11 last signals have been pretty much at those bottoms. And again, we're getting very close to seeing that signal now, which would line up with us potentially being near a bottom in stocks somewhere between now and September, and then starting another massive leg up in Q4 and 2023. Here are just some other charts. So this is global growth optimism at new record lows. So basically, how many people are expecting growth in the global economy, and that is at record lows. And as you may know about financial markets, usually that sentiment is the most bearish near bottoms and the most bullish near tops. And as you can see here circled, look at how bad the sentiment was during these major bottoms of markets. The market crash of 2008, right? Bottom of March 2020 over here. And now again, we are at that point where the overall sentiment towards the market and the global growth is extremely low, which is a good thing because that usually tends to happen at or near bottoms. Then we have the McClellan Oscillator again here from Game of Trades. The McClellan Oscillator just flashed for the first time since March 2020. We all know what happened in March 2020, massive sell-off. So it measures the market breadth, the number of stocks participating in the S&P 500 move. Historically, major bottoms have occurred when the indicator moved from negative 50 to over 100, the red dot. And as you can see, the previous red dots have marked significant bottoms followed by rallies over here over the last 10 years or so. And you can see every time that has happened, what has happened on the price. And again, we are seeing a red dot right now. Here's another one that Game of Trades shared. It's the TLT Optics. So basically it's saying oversold readings on the TLT Optics 20-day moving average historically aligns with short-term bounces on the 20-year Treasury bond. If TLT follows through on this move, it would mean falling Treasury yields and rising S&P 500. And again, you can see where the dot on the indicator corresponds with this. You can see, and we have it now over here. So that could mean, again, we're possibly close to or at a bottom that will be followed with a rally. Then another potential angle here to also add some confidence to that is to see indeed that insiders are actually buying a lot of shares rather than selling or staying in cash. So you can see this was from April 30th already, but Berkshire, so Warren Buffett's company, bought 51 billion in stock as Buffett combats the supply chain. So you can see there's a lot of money being deployed when retail is expecting, a major market crash, a continuation of the crash, an extended crash, but this is kind of saying the opposite. And then we have things like this with the JP Morgan CEO who's saying brace yourself for an economic hurricane. If you look at media headlines and what CEOs of companies, and especially banks, tend to say, that tends to be a lot of the opposite of what is actually happening. They tweet this kind of stuff or they share these kind of headlines. When it's a negative headline, it tends to be close or negative to the bottom. And when it's a crazy bullish kind of headline, it tends to be near the tops of markets. Now, whether that's intentional or whether that's designed to trap retail or to create liquidity for themselves or whatever the case is, either way, this tends to be more often than not the opposite of what is actually happening. So the fact that the JP Morgan CEO is saying brace yourself for an economic hurricane after we've already sold off so much in the stock market since November last year, that could also be another signal of confluence that we might be approaching a bottom sometime within the next few weeks or the next few months, and then start another major rally. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a lot wrong with the financial system, with the money system, with the inflation that is happening, and with the economy overall. I'm not going to go into detail with that. I'm also not an expert at that, but we can look at the data and we can see what this is showing. So even though in the big picture, maybe fundamentally there's a lot of stuff wrong, that doesn't mean we can't get another major market rally later on in this year and in 2023, potentially even take us to new all-time highs in the stock markets before we get the real bear market or the real extended depression or recession or whatever that some people are talking about. And if we do get that major market melt up or another major leg up in the stock markets, then it's very likely that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies are also going to experience another major rally, maybe even to new all-time highs for Bitcoin, which would obviously be very significant for altcoins, again, as we've seen in the previous bull markets in 2017 and in 2020 and 2021, the recent one. I believe we are going to get another one. So if this all works out in this way, it may actually happen a lot sooner than people think. So rather than only happening in 2024, 2025, after the next Bitcoin halving, like a lot of people are thinking, if this plays out in this way, we could be seeing another major rally potentially starting in Q4 of this year and going on into 2023. So let's see how things develop over the next couple of weeks, the next couple of months. If you like this video, please smash the like button, subscribe down below if you haven't done so already, get on my email list, and I will see you in the next video.